How's it going, everybody? So it's Sunday right now, Sunday, August 4th, I believe. And I wanted to come out real quick and just explain my thoughts on this and all this, because by the time that this video will be out, a lot of news will be out. So it just came out that the NCAA investigators that were on the Michigan cheating scandal with Connor Stallings and all this, this is my first time coming out about this, which I have my thoughts, I have my opinions on it, but it is coming out right now that the NCAA investigators determined that was Connor Stallings on the Central Michigan sideline of the Central Michigan State game, the cheating scandal, all that. But another further thing came out saying that Sherrone Moore, the new head coach of Michigan, is now being investigated. That it was the investigation saw that Sherrone Moore deleted many texts between him and Connor Stallings. Today, Connor Stallings was found as the person that was on that sideline. So basically when all this became very, very public, and this became very public end of September, early October, right? But the reason why I want to talk about this is nobody in my right, okay, I think it was wrong. What the Michigan coaching staff did, I think it was wrong and everything was wrong. But for people saying that they should punish Michigan for this, yes, I think they should be punished, but for what people are saying they should happen, having their championship revoked, the wins revoked, all that blah, 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 right? Okay, let me say this. If this is going on 2021, 2022, okay, then that was wrong, right? We're going to go back to last year, 2023. So this 2023 team, they were cruising beginning of the year, blah, blah, blah. This whole thing comes out, right? Okay, the cheating scandal comes out, Connor Stallings, blah, 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 Michigan illegally cheating, all this stuff, sidelines, blah, 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 right? Everyone immediately wanted just get rid of them, And what I've came to notice is you either like Michigan or you hate them. It's the same thing with Ohio State. Same thing. You either like them or you hate them. It's just how it is. But if this happened to any other program, the same backlash would be happening at that program. It just happens to be Michigan. So my opinion on this is I think this cheating scandal, yes, it was wrong. As I said, the coaching staff's wrong for this. The talent at Michigan was good enough to win a national championship by itself. And by the way, listen to what I just said. The talent level at Michigan last year and the team chemistry was good enough to win a national championship. Well, guess what? They did that. And the reason why I say that, all this came out in October, right? And everyone's going to deny the truth, all blah, blah, blah. Everyone's just going to be sore losers. I'm going to be straight up with you right now. Straight up with you right now. This came out October. Do you know what that gave? That gave Michigan, let's go through the bottom of the half of their schedule. At Michigan State, at Penn State, at Maryland, they hosted Ohio State, they played Iowa, they played the greatest college football coach of all time in Nick Saban, they played Washington, the greatest offense of last year, right? That's 7 teams. 7 teams. Basically half their schedule. Half their schedule knew about this. Half their schedule changed plays, all that changed receiving, right? They prepared for Michigan. They had that time to prepare. Everyone knew the signs were different. This sign stealing thing had nothing to do with their last 7 games of the year at all. It completely had nothing to do. By the way, the Big Ten wants to suspend Jim Harbaugh, their leader, their guy there, for Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State, right? Well, you saw that the Penn State game, what they did there. Going to Happy Valley against the greatest the best rush defense of last year, right? Do you know what they did last year? They ran the ball, was it 32 straight times to end the game? That is not sign stealing. That is just hard-nosed, determined, smash-mouth football. That is what they did. They went in there, and they literally punched them in the face. They literally punched him in the face, right? They had a first round, was it top 12? I don't know, what was he, pick 10, J.J. McCarthy? Top 12, we'll say top 12, because I think that, yeah. Top 12 pick, right? And J.J. McCarthy, first rounder. They didn't even use him. They didn't even use him. And I am baffled by, like, people saying this should get revoked or whatever. Jim Harbaugh gets suspended. Sherrone Moore comes in the intern head coach for, as of now, he's the office coordinator. Goes into Penn State, gets a top 10 win. Okay, that's pretty good, right? They play Maryland. You saw last year hiccup against Maryland. That was not good at all. By any game you watched that, it was sloppy. Blah blah blah. I think they were looking ahead at Ohio State, which you can see why going into that game both teams would be 11-0. All that big hype, right? Top 5 matchup again. So the Maryland game, I really had anything to do with it. The Michigan State game, 49-0. Like, Michigan State, like, there was no competition in that game. Everyone had Michigan winning by more than 20. So that game doesn't even count. The Penn State game, a lot of people chose Penn State because of this, which you saw Harbaugh get suspended the night before of the game, Friday night. I remember seeing that. I'm like, wow, that's a pretty ballsy move. You know what the Michigan players do? They rallied. They rallied. Remember that turn? Remember the saying? Bet, bet, bet. And all the Michigan players over Twitter. You saw it. McCarthy, Corum, Zach Zenner, Trevor Keegan, Mikey Sanderson. Well, like, you saw all those guys. That became a player-led team. That became a player-led. It was already a player-led team, but if this didn't make it a more player-led team, I don't know what will. I don't know what did. If you go look at the past years, right, of all these teams, this was the most player-led team I could think of in recent history. And I don't care. I will stand by that. You look at what they had to go through, okay? Let me calm down for a second. But they went through Michigan State, went through Penn State, running the ball 32 straight times in the game. Didn't even throw the ball in the air because they did not care at all. And they went down and won. Defense stood their ground, went down and won. Maryland, the hiccup game. We go to the Ohio State game. All this is out. It's Harbaugh's third game suspended already. Michigan's won the past two. Both teams 11-0. Top 5 matchup. The winner of this is basically in the college football playoff because then they go to the Big Ten championship game. Most likely going to win that. They're going to be very favored, right? As we're looking at it from last year. The sign stealing had nothing to do with that game. Michigan won that game 30-24 fair and square. I don't care what you say, okay? You look at, yes, Michigan gave them a chance to go down. Ohio State go down and win the game. They didn't. You saw Michigan when they needed to. I mean, they didn't capitalize it. The last 7 minutes, 8 minutes of the game, they went down and put the clock under a minute and a half, under 2 minutes. They drove down. They did what they did. I mean, you look at how they won that game. That was a cinema game. Everybody loved it. It was a classic game, right? So Ohio State knew about that sign stealing, the scandal, all that, right? Didn't affect Michigan. Went down one. Didn't have their head coach. Didn't have their leader in charge. They went down. Didn't have their general. They went down one. Beat Ohio State. Another top 5 matchup. Ryan Day 1-3 versus Michigan. He's, all that stuff, right? At that game, I was at that game. It was just hard-nosed, determined football. You saw which team physically was more motivated, was just better up front physically. And that's what Ohio State, going into this year real quick, that's what Ohio State is going to build on. I think Ohio State is probably going to be the best team up front. You look at both sides in the trenches, both sides of the ball, they probably have the best combination of offensive line, defensive line in the country. But that was on that. But Michigan, against Ohio State last year, Michigan was just better. The sign stealing had nothing to do with it. They didn't use that. You saw Connor Sanders wasn't even a part of the program for these last 7 games or whatever. It was just so much, right? Okay, now we move on to Iowa, right? Iowa, yes. I don't even want to. Iowa's offense was terrible. Everyone knows that. It's not something secretive. Their defense is really good. Michigan went down, beat Iowa. Great Iowa head coach. He is an all-time legend there at Iowa. He saw what was happening. He knew what was happening. I don't think that really affected the game, right? Michigan was just a better team. So now, this is where I really, 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 really think why this championship should not get revoked and why I think this is all complete BS of saying what should happen. I mean, again, I think it was wrong. I think the Michigan coaching staff was wrong for this, but I don't think it really affected anything, right? So look, they play Alabama. They're the ones who they're playing Alabama in the Rose Bowl, right? One of the most prestigious stadiums in all of sports, one of the most prestigious events in all sports, the Rose Bowl, right? Cultural playoff Rose Bowl. Anything can happen there. You're playing Alabama, who just beat Georgia, by the way, and everyone thought Georgia was the top dog. They just beat Georgia, so they're hot. They have unbelievable talent on both sides of the ball. Unbelievable talent in the secondary for Alabama. Unbelievable talent up front, all that. Alabama is a very good team last year. They'll be very good this year, too. You are giving the greatest college football coach of all time 4 weeks to prepare for Michigan. If you give any coach 4 weeks to prepare, they're going to be very good, right, against them. If you give the greatest college football coach of all time 4 weeks to prepare against a team, if you look at his record in those games, it is unreal. Unreal. That's why Nick Saban is a legend. He's the greatest of all time in college football. It's just how it is, right? So, 4 weeks, right? Nick Saban knew about this. Everyone knew about it. Everyone knew there was no sign stealing. Michigan beat Alabama fair and square. I don't care. If you look at it, they had that sign stealing scandal had nothing to do with how Michigan played that entire game. You saw Michigan was even down. You know what Michigan had to do? They had to go down on the last drive, score a touchdown to win the game, or to tie up the game, right? It is 4th down and 2, right? It is 4th down and 2. Their season's on the line right there. They convert it. They go down. They get a block in the back, Roman Wilson, okay? That doesn't stop him. You know what happens the very next play? Roman Wilson comes up with an acrobatic catch, puts him inside the 10. You know what they do? Run a couple times, blah, blah, blah. Flips it to Roman Wilson, touchdown. That's just a player-led team. When the game was on the line, they came in, they came through. It's just how it was, okay? So they beat Alabama. None of the sign stealing stuff had anything to do with it at all. They beat Alabama. They beat the SEC top dog, the SEC champ. So now they won the Big Ten championship. They beat Alabama. They beat the greatest coach of all time. They beat the SEC championship. They beat Ohio State. I mean, by the way, Sherrone Moore, he's now 2-0 in top 10 games. He wasn't the head coach of Alabama. I was going back to when he beat Ohio State and Penn State. They beat Alabama. Okay, now they are going into a week later playing Washington, the best offense in the country, right? Michael Penix, Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, all these guys, right? Okay, guess what? You know what they did? You know what they did? They held the best offense in the country to 13 points. 13 points. And you may be saying, like, no one was expecting that, blah, blah. That had nothing to do with sign stealing. That was straight scheme. That was straight scheme. You look at 2021, 2020, 2021. When Michigan wanted to rebuild their program on defense, they built it in the manner of stopping Ohio State. And what did Ohio State have? NFL quarterback, C.J. Stroud. They had Chris Olave, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Marvin Harrison was at the bottom. Garrett Wilson. Like, they had all these guys. They built that Michigan team to stop that team. You know what Washington was? A replica of that Ohio State team almost. You look at it. Elite quarterback, going to be very good in the NFL. 3 elite wide receivers, an elite tight end, a good offensive line, a good running back. Like, Michigan was literally built to stop that Washington team. It's just how it was. And you saw they just weren't up front physically of what they needed to be to stop Michigan. You saw Michigan run it down their throat. But yes, it was close, but Michigan obviously came through because I just think it's the wear and tear of how Michigan plays. It's just very good. But I think that this whole sign stealing stuff did not affect how Michigan played the last 7 games. If you look at that, that actually brought them, excuse me, that actually brought them together more. That totally brought them together more. So, I mean, that became a player-led team. It had nothing to do with how they played the last 7 games. I think Michigan completely was the best team in the country last year. I mean, that's just my opinion. They went down, beat the SEC champ, beat the Pac-12. Like, they beat these people that everyone thought they couldn't beat, right? And you look at it, a lot of people were picking Alabama. A lot of people were picking Alabama. A lot of people were picking Washington. It's just how it was. But that team did not care. They had their eye on the prize. That's just what it was. This sign stealing, cheating scandal, yes, it's wrong. It had nothing to do with the last 7 games of the year. Nothing. And out of those last 7 games, Washington ranked in the top 10. Ohio State ranked in the top 10. Iowa was ranked. Alabama ranked in the top 10. Penn State ranked in the top 10. So 5 of their last 7 games were ranked opponents. And they went in and dominated basically every game. The Alabama game was the only one they really didn't dominate. But they came out with the win because of the grittiness. But I just think all this coming out, yes, people are going to be sore losers. That's just my opinion on it. I don't care. I think Michigan won this championship fair and square. They won it straight outright. A lot of people are going to disagree with me, and I want you guys to disagree with me because that just means you're a sore loser and you're just oblivious. I don't care. But it's just how it is. It's just how it is. People are going to backlash because they cheating, blah, 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 like all this stuff, right? If you straight up sit down with yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to come with terms, probably, a lot of you. If you sit down and think, wow, they really did just beat 5 out of 7 ranked opponents, no silence to any of that. Maybe they were the best team last year. They won that fair and square, which I think they did. But people will agree with me. People will disagree with me very heavily, and I'll probably get backlash for it. But I don't care because it's my opinion, and I think my opinion's right. You just have to be real with yourself. Okay? Go look at the stats, the facts, everything of how they played in the last 7 games. Nothing to do with sign stealing either. They outplayed every single team. The only team they didn't really outplay was Alabama, and they still came out to win the college football playoff, okay? Against the greatest coach of all time. So that is my opinion on that. I know I just wanted to get this out there, but if they revoke this championship, there will be a lot of people upset, and I think it'll be one of the dumbest things the NCAA has ever done. But we know the NCAA is not smart at all. But Sherrone Moore probably going to receive suspension, just how it is. Maybe this will bring the team player-led again. Who knows? Who knows? But that is my opinion on that. You can agree, disagree with me. I don't care, but that is my opinion on that, and I just want to get that out there real quick. But that is my opinion on everything involving Michigan.